Welcome to the new update. So we're coming close to the end of the year. It's been turbulent times. The UK is going into a second lockdown, and all the MIAs, AJATers, Refolders, Migakuers, the hell is it called now? But who knows what the hell is it called? We're just chilling at home, just immersing as much as possible, trying to get to the best place possible we can get to with our language goals. So with this video, I'm going to be talking about a variety of things, and I'm going to try and give you a better insight into things. So yeah, there's been a lot of changes. Before, it was like, okay, you had Anti-Moon Sight, then you had Katsumoto coming out of nowhere, taking some of the concepts and making it into his AJAT kind of idea, and then it merged into MIA with Matt vs Japan taking it and refolding it into his own ideas. And then Matt and Yoga had that little bit of a scuffle. They went their own separate ways, with Yoga doing Migaku ways, mostly focusing on tools and mostly a more transparent way of learning which fits a wide range of language learners. And Matt, he's eventually going to go on to do his new method. And yeah, everything just seems promising. We got more kind of ideas, more kind of insights and different ways of seeing the kind of immersion train. So whatever train you're in, I guess some people will be calling themselves immersion based learners or whatever the hell they call it. It's wild, man. So yeah, enough about that. Let's just bring it back to myself. What happened recently is, I was immersing as usual. Let me get the freaking headphones. Immersing as usual. I was doing some work, immersing as usual, and I was a bit stressed. And I was like, a bit overwhelmed or whatever. I had the earphones in, and I was like, you know what? I just removed the headphone, and I was like, yo, things are not too bad, I felt a bit more calmer, a bit more relaxed, and just a lot better in my times away from stressful times at work and some other things which wasn't really going my way when I was feeling frustrated with the immersion. So to sum it up, yeah, like passive immersion, immersion almost 24 hours a day, right? Because I sleep immersion as well. I don't have a freaking speaker in my shower. It was causing me anxiety. Like I guess it's just that mad for that mad desire what a lot of immersion based learners have to get to the highest level of their language as soon as possible. It can create a lot of stress and a lot of pressure onto you, and if it's unchecked, then it can get pretty mad. So took that out, and yeah, I feel a lot better. So I'm not doing passive immersion. I'm just not doing passive immersion when I'm at home, because I know I'm gonna get my immersion done regardless. So that's cool. And also a very interesting thing what I wanted to talk about is, like, last year, what kind of kicked off me and my productivity this year is something which is basically called dopamine detox. So what a lot of people do nowadays, what they don't realize, right? They overconsume content, and they look too much into other people's lives. So much that it's kind of, unnatural, and it may cause us to compare ourselves and have all these kind of things going on. So yes, at one point I just thought I need to get away from everything which may make me feel a type of way in terms of comparison, etc., and just really look more inwards, become more mindful, do more meditation, and be more focused. So I stopped using the things which caused the most distraction, which was Facebook, and it was Instagram for me, actually. I literally went cold turkey, so I just didn't sign into Facebook, and I didn't even look at my Instagram for months. That includes replying to messages, so I literally went super cold turkey. And what I noticed is, between the tasks, like, let's just say, I finished work, right? Sometimes, between the tasks, you just feel like, okay, I just need to check this platform, see what's going on, scroll a little bit, and, have some kind of activity. There's less of that need and less of that kind of space of time wasted, and it's more like, okay, that's done, let's move on to the next thing. And life started to become more like that. It was less gaps in my day and more things getting done, which essentially resulted in increased productivity. So I feel like anybody who does seem a bit worked up from everything going on, maybe it's just people seeming like they're getting super good super fast, or seeing people in other areas getting the things that you might want, try and take time away from all of that and just appreciate yourself more, because I'm sure anyone watching is an amazing person. If you're not an amazing person, get good. No, I'm joking. If you're not an amazing person, then you got to work on yourself, because we all got things that we're trying to work on, and it's definitely a journey in that kind of endeavor. So yeah, let's all keep trying to get better. It came to a point when I decided to get back to the Facebook and the Instagram that I reduced the time I used Facebook and Instagram onto like a slot in my day. So what I did, I governed like around a one hour slot in my day, right at the end of the day, that I am able to check my notifications, see if anything relevant's there, check messages if I'd like to reply to them or not, and just take that time to do that kind of component. I know some people may have problems with Discord and maybe, going on servers and scrolling, and, I guess the whole point is to try and minimize that. So any kind of messages or communication which might take a lot of time away from you, just try and, time box that, or put it into a section which it doesn't distract you so much. So, with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about habit building. And when it comes to building a habit, I talked a little bit about this in my previous update video, but when it comes to habit building, I feel like what I did is, after I kind of took away the things which attracted me the most, I had a lot more time. I wanted to convert my energy, which was placed on something else at that time, right? And I wanted to convert that energy to something else. And what that started with was playing Pokemon. So when I played Pokemon, I was able to play it for 4 hours a day. And before that, I used to feel like there was not enough hours in the day for me to do what I like to do. So that gave me the confidence to then feel like, okay, let's transfer this kind of energy into something what I'd like to do, which was the Japanese. Sorry, something which what I'd like to improve myself with, which is Japanese. Oh my god, I did like the freaking mapping. So yeah, like, did my normal Anki, and I started immersing more material and stuff, and then that led to where I am now. Something interesting that happened is that I've been noticing that a lot of words come up in Anki, and a lot of those words sometimes have long intervals, they pop up, and I'm like, I should know this, but I don't know this, or I do know this only in the context of Anki. And I had a talk with our good friend Otaku, Dave, and we talked a little bit about the difference between learning versus acquisition. And I guess when you learn something, especially in the realms of Anki, it's very contained in that kind of domain-specific, topic-specific kind of context in the program, right? So when you're away from that, or when you hear it randomly and etc., right, you might not get it because you only understand that in that specific context. And when you hear it in different places, you're able to get a fuller understanding of the meaning. And then once that understanding of the meaning is complete, then you've acquired it. And that's a very interesting concept. I think Matt talked about it in one of his Q&As. So moving with that, I played a lot of games this past year. So I played a couple of visual novels. I played like 6. I freaking played Karakara 2, Nekopara from 1 to 3, and also the Extra and the 0, as well as Zelda Twilight Princess, Zelda Wind Waker, Final Fantasy 3. And then after all of that, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready for the big one. The one which is going to take me a hella long time, and that was Dragon Quest. In the end, I completed it. It took me 116 hours, I think, over the span of 6 weeks, and I played around like 3-4 hours a day. And that was a great experience. You know why it was a great experience? Because the story was captivating. It wasn't too difficult. It was kind of aimed at, I think, teenagers-ish. So there was a lot of Nichijou Kaiwa, everyday kind of speech in the game, but also there was a lot of fantasy words, and there was different ways of speaking. There's some Keigo as well, with the way some people spoke, and it was a good kind of variety of things going on. And because it's a massive game and there's so many NPCs to talk to, and it kind of relies on your kind of in-depth knowledge of the lore in the game for you to proceed and kind of enjoy the game more, right? It was a really good like step above other games that I was playing. So what I did to get as much reading out of the game as possible is that what I'd do, I'd go up to like every single NPC character in the game, and I'll talk to them. Instead of like trying to grab every kind of unknown word in a sentence, I'll try and skim the sentence and see if there's anything important I can pick out of that sentence, right? And if there isn't, then I'll move on. Because the whole point isn't to try and understand everything, right? If I did that, then it'll take me a lot more than 100 hours. I only did that when I was going through the main storyline and the main cutscenes and searching up the words there and trying my best to understand what's going on. Sometimes it'll be all of the words, sometimes it'll just be 1 or 2, because there might be a lot of unknown words in the sentence, then it might not be worth it, right? To search up all of them. So Dragon Quest is a cool one when, increase my confidence in terms of reading as well as listening-ish, I guess. But yeah, so much that when it came to playing a visual novel I played previously, so let's just say Nekopara, like it took me like 2 weeks to complete volume, was it one? And then it took me around 17 to 19 hours to complete that, right, over the span of 2 weeks. So in this week, I literally just did Nekopara, 2 Nekopara volumes. So instead of taking it like 2 weeks, I did 2 of those volumes in 1 week. I spent a lot of time, granted, I spent a lot of time doing that, but I feel like what Dragon Quest did do is that increased my ability to touch the language for long durations as opposed to short durations, feeling tired, and then doing it for another short duration, feeling tired, and etc. And also, of course, comprehension improved as well. So let me just explain a little bit like how I do my immersion, because it usually works in this format. How I structure my immersion, I don't have like a freaking spreadsheet or a freaking like document where I write down exactly what I'm doing or anything. It's mostly just all in my head. It's like, for me personally, if something makes sense in my head, then I'm gonna go forward, right? If something doesn't make sense in my head, then it kind of just annoys me, and then I try my best to figure it out. So I kind of made this kind of thing up where I will have like daily immersion, and then I'll have main immersion, right? Main immersion, you can switch, but it's your main bulk what you're doing every day. Daily immersion is kind of different, but it's quite flexible. So daily immersion, what my daily immersion is I wake up, I'd have like a time slot where I'll only check out English content, and then after that time slot where I'll go onto my Japanese account, and then I'll check out like, it could be anything from like 5 minutes to 30 minutes of Japanese YouTube. And then after that I might do some work, so it's work sometimes 2 hours, work is sometimes like 6 hours, or sometimes I may not have work on that day, right? It's super flexible. And then after that, I'll do my main immersion. So my main immersion can be anything from like a video game, a light novel, a visual novel, or a manga, right? And on an ideal day, I would like to do at least 3 hours of that, right? So I slot that in. And if I have a bit more time in that day, then I'll watch some anime, right? So I'd watch like between 1 and 3 episodes of anime. And then right at the end of the day, I'll do some Anki. Right now, my kind of, main immersion, it goes like this. We go video game, then we go visual novel, and then we go light novel, and then we go manga, right? So video game, you only play one video game, because a video game can take around 20 hours to up to 115 hours, like Dragon Quest, right? And then visual novel, it depends on the visual novel. If you play short visual novels like I do, they can probably take around 15 to 20 hours, right? And then a light novel, it should take the same amount of time as a visual novel, so around like 15 to 20 hours, right? And then with manga, it takes me around 3 hours to do 1 volume, or at least prior to Dragon Quest, it took me 3 hours to do 1 volume. So then I'll do a bunch of volumes of manga. Once I've done that, then I would go back to video games again. So it's going through that format and making sure it's got enough of variety for me to not feel like, oh, this is dry, and it's kind of, okay. While speaking about that, I'm just going to talk about the wild. So yeah, finding cards in the wild. It's a very interesting concept. So when I do find cards in the wild, it's mostly through doing screenshots when playing video games, as well as Morph Band with a readability analyzer to try and learn 98% of vocab in shows what I am interested in, so I can stick to like one domain and get good at that domain and then move on, kind of thing. Because previously I was just using the frequency list, and then I was doing different anime like that, so learning the top 15k words. But depending on your genre and what you basically immerse with, I guess frequency lists are not so great, because sometimes one genre might have a lot of domain specific words, which may not be in the top 15k. So I've switched to this method recently with learning a show to 98%. I started with Tagaki-san, and I'm gonna go from there, right? So that's some good stuff. That method's called Deep Dive, and people on the LLJ server talk about it a lot. So Let's Learn Japanese, made by Nick Marine and Otohu, and our good friend No Compo. They, are the guys who do the deep dives a lot, man. Some good stuff. So because Yoga's recently released the Migaku browser extension that also gives you a lot of flexibility to do that on the go, as opposed to loading up Morphman and going through the technicalities of that. So yeah, like Immersion definitely now feels a bit more fluid. It's a lot more enjoyable, takes a lot less effort. I'm less fast on the things what I don't understand, and I just focus on trying to get a gist of what's going on. So I can't really give you any kind of statistics or anything like that. But that's just how I feel. Monolingual transition, I feel like I'm a bit too chill with too many things. I'm like, monolingual transition, I sometimes add monolingual definitions onto my cards. I sometimes do monolingual and bilingual definitions. It just depends. I'm not too crazy about that, you know. Maybe I should be. But I have a little document where I just add sentences from the dictionary with I+1 words, and then I add that to the monolingual deck. So that's some good stuff. I think I'm just covering everything which is not just straight like, hey guys, look at me, I can play this game, I can play that game, this manga, that manga, I'm immersing this many hours, that many hours, yeah, sort of thing, right? I'm covering everything which is not that, and a bit more about the process and the ups and downs. Overall, I'm happy, but it's going to take a lot of work to fully get to where we want to be. Let's talk about output. Output. My output sucks. My output sucks, man. It's so embarrassing. Like when I speak to my friends who I speak to weekly, I'm just there like Japanese time, and then I speak and I'm like, oh my god, this is so katagoto. It's bad. It's so bad. One day I guess I'll find, the trick for output. Because I guess input will make you more familiar with the sounds and how it all goes. But output's something you have to practice. So in that sense, I'm just going through a grammar deck. I think it's Dictionary of Japanese Grammar. And I'm just going to go through that, like the basic, intermediate and advanced, so we can just go over the grammar I know. I already went through Take Hims again. So, good stuff. So guys, one more thing I'd like to talk about in regards to my update video is flow state and immersion. When I'm playing my games, when I'm playing my visual novels, or when I'm watching anime, I want to preserve the flow state I'm in, and I want to use the method which causes the least kind of resistance for me in terms of working up the way to consuming that content. So when I'm playing visual games, it's just a simple, share X button and then click the screen to make a screenshot. When I'm playing visual novels, I save the sentences and I save a screenshot and a audio file of the screen, and then I carry on. And with anime, I simply just watch without subtitles, and I don't pause. I just keep it going. If there's something I understand, it's cool. If something I don't understand, I keep going. I understand other people have different ways of going about this. Some people like to use the subtitles and pause when there's anything they don't understand, look it up and make a cut, right? Or they might just look it up and continue, right? I tried it once with Voracious and it was kind of good. I used it for ReZero, the 2 OVA movies, and I used it for ReZero Season 2, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but the problem what I did have was obviously, it did break up my flow in terms of enjoying the show, and some of the words that I should have looked up, I just didn't at some points, because I was just there like, this is a bit, mendokusai. I just want to watch my show. I probably do that for some shows, right? Where, I really want to understand the meaning. But I feel like for most shows, I don't think it's gonna cut it, man. For most shows, I just want to enjoy. Only for the real specific shows, I might want to understand everything, but yeah. Props to everybody who just, minds everything with just I+1 sentence, like, the context the most for those kind of words and sentences, and you'll probably implement, a more concrete memory when you do remember that. Different strokes for different folks, and do what you want till you reach the point where you'd like to get to. I hope you enjoyed my rambling. I hope it made sense, and thank you for checking out the update. Hopefully we'll have even more exciting things to talk about soon. And if you have any kind of ideas or criticisms or thoughts for any kind of tutorials or things you'd like to know more about in the future, just let me know. But till then, happy immersion.